year is 2009 and the gas-guzzling poster child is on its deathbed, and for good reason. Hummer and the H2 are no longer right for this world, but a decade and a pandemic later, Hummer is back, but as an EV this time. Okay, show of hands, who else did not see this one coming?
No!
Oh, and while the old H2 was just basically an embarrassment in just so many ways, the new fella, well, it's good. It's very good, but boy is it expensive. Welcome back to Gearbox Pizza, your one-stop shop for mildly biased and lightly researched takes on all things with four wheels. Well, I mean, maybe three wheels, or even no wheels. I don't know. All right, how about things that just move fast? Yeah, that's better. Oh, and I wasn't gonna ask, but whatever. Dudes, how about a sub? What do you say? Come on, what do you say? All right, so what is this thing? Well, things. You see, because there's the truck version that's about to start finding its way in the customers' driveways as you watch this. Then there's the SUV version that's gonna come a bit later. She's a big one too, so big in fact that she's actually 17 inches longer and 6 inches wider than that thick woolly mammoth, the H2. Yeah, that is big, so it's obviously gonna take some power to get this thing moving, right? Well, there's plenty available. You see the top trim, the sold out version, the edition 1, makes a cool 1,000 horsepower and roughly 1,000 pound-feet of torque. And that's enough to get this giant tuna can to 60 miles an hour in 3 seconds flat. Yeah, I mean, it's just pretty insane to see all these crazy acceleration numbers coming out of these 3-ton electric trucks, right? If this is the new normal, well, I think I can get on board with that. Also, this thing delivers in the range department as well. How's 350 miles of range for you? This does all come at a price though, and I hope you're sitting down because man, oh man, for the edition 1, how's a starting price of over $110,000 sound?
What?
Ouch! So it better be good at that price, it better be really good at that price, and even then it's probably just too expensive, period. You know what's cool though? This thing is basically a full convertible. With these 4 large and removable glass panels on the roof, as well as this rear window that can drop down into the body. Look, I'll admit it, I kind of love this feature. So where full-on convertibles are kind of a commitment, this sort of take on it kind of gets you the best of both worlds. You also get this adjustable air suspension that allows you to be one of the ground clearance leaders and helps us really establish that off-road cred. And then there's this crab walk feature. You see, the rear wheels can rotate up to 10 degrees in either direction, allowing this gnarly giant to have an impressively tiny turning radius, which is awesome. But honestly, it's kind of all about the crab walk. It's new, it's cool. Now, I don't think it's quite as cool as Rivian's tank turn ability, but yeah, it's still pretty neat. And not sure how useful it's going to be in practice, but hey, better to have it than to not have it when you're out climbing over rocks and trees, I guess, right? Alright, so let's talk styling a little bit, and this one's a little tricky. So everything styling wise is anchored with the original military Humvee, which was designed clearly with the function over form perspective, and it makes no apologies about it. It was super purpose built, and because of that, well, it's just really cool. So I don't know, the H2 it always felt a little silly to me, as the styling was more like this aggressive body kit wrapped around an existing platform. So where the original Humvee was a legitimate bruiser that could literally take a bullet, the H2 looked and felt kind of fragile in comparison, especially with all that plastic. Look, the new Hummer EV just looks way better though. It really does. But again, like the H2, it does feel just a little bit overstyled. And it sort of looks like they're trying just a little bit too hard to be like the tough guy on the block. I guess what I'm getting at is this. As far as the whole Hummer styling thing goes, this is just miles ahead and way better looking than the H2. But it's still kind of handicapped by having to look like the original Humvee. It's just never going to be as cool looking as the, I guess, quote-unquote original one, right? Alright, so on the inside, things are much better. Remember the interior of the H2? Yeah, it was a disaster. Nothing but cheap materials with almost no thought put into the design. Oh yeah, and literally everything rattled like a can full of nickels welded to a jackhammer, right? Not very confidence inspiring. But GM did it right with the new fella. Yes, it is pretty nice on the inside. You got lots of nice materials, and believe it or not, it's actually a little bit luxurious feeling. Styling wise, pretty decent, but maybe just a little bit overdone. I mean, it looks no nonsense and tough, but I guess that's kind of the point. And then there's this whole like moon theme with elevation maps of the moon molded into so many panels and places. Look, space is awesome and the moon is rad and all, and it's an interesting idea, but maybe, just maybe, it's just a touch too much. And I know this is nitpicking, but just a little bit less decoration on the inside might just be better. But hey, GM, nice job with the inside. Then again, let's not forget that this thing's $110,000, so it better be nice in there. Alright, so we've mostly been talking about the top trim edition 1 version of this thing, but look, that's for good reason. This is the only version that's remotely close to being available right now. Deliveries are starting, or they've already started, kind of depending on when you're watching this. Awesome, right? I mean, only the Rivian R1T beat them to market. GM beat Ford, Tesla, and Canoo. Well, not so fast, bro. You see, the Edition 1 is all sold out, and the next available trim will not be scheduled to come out until at least the fall of 2022. And that's if we don't see any delays. And we will. But speaking of the other trims, let's take a look at what else is coming out and when. Alright, the next trim level down from the Edition 1 is the EV3X version. And as I said, it won't be available for at least a year. Like the Edition 1, this comes with a 3-motor layout and power is reduced to a slightly less insane 830 horsepower. Yeah, I'm thinking that's still plenty. So 0 to 60 comes in about 3.5 seconds and pricing starting at a lofty $100,000. Oh, and the range? Well, Hummer's saying up to 300 miles for this one. So one step down that trim tree, we'll find the EV2X, which as the name hints at, this is the 2-motor version. Now this version won't be available until the spring of 2023 at the earliest. So probably a year and a half from now, give or take, which is a pretty long time to wait. Price-wise, we're looking at about $90,000 starting price, which again is not cheap. Power's down also, but still plenty fine at 625 horsepower, and GM's not giving a projected 0 to 60 time, but we're guessing this thing will hit 60 in roughly 5 seconds. And then GM's saying that this thing's gonna get like up to 300 miles also. Alright, last up we have the entry level option, the EV2, and it's still freaking expensive, starting at 80 grand. It's got the same dual motor layout as the EV2X with the same amount of power, but we got a smaller, cheaper battery here, and range, it just drops down to about 250 miles. So this will be the quote-unquote affordable one, I guess, but this version isn't scheduled to be available until the spring of 2024 at the earliest. And that's if things go perfectly, which they won't. So again, don't be surprised if you're not able to get a hold of one of these until, I don't know, maybe even like 2025. And I hope I'm wrong here, but look, getting to volume production with EVs is a very difficult thing to pull off, but I don't know, maybe GM can do it. I mean, look, I'm pulling for them, I hope they can. All right, so what's the bottom line? Well, simply put, this is the best Hummer ever, and it's not even close, but let's just not forget how bad that H2 was. I mean, it'd be pretty hard not to top that by a relatively wide margin. It's actually a super capable off-roader. It's totally fun and fast. It can be almost a complete convertible when you want it to be, and it's got plenty of range and tech to keep you on the road. The problem is the price. To get the more affordable version, you're gonna have to be willing to wait like 3 years or so. And if you don't want to wait that long, then you're gonna have to be spending just so much freaking money to get one of these. So at $110,000+ starting price, this makes it by far the most expensive EV truck you can buy. Look, the Rivian R1T is very, very good and significantly cheaper, as is the F-150 Lightning. Then there's the Cybertruck and the Canoo, which will be way cheaper. At a certain point, you're just gonna have to really love the whole Hummer thing to justify dropping an additional like 30 to 60 grand over these other pretty solid competitors. Look, very rich Hummer dudes are gonna love this thing like their first puppy, but for just about everybody else, there's probably a better option for you. That said, if you got the cash to burn and want a fun and relatively compromise-free giant ass EV, well, this one might be on top for now.